We're ready to go?
That's my sister.
I want to be talking about Carl Gustav Nelson. And there's a picture of him and everything else. But my little sister said she was a nurse. And I do think that it's terribly important to use a word that meant a great deal to me, and how in this time in my life that I think perhaps you or one of the other ladies talked about it, that there was a word called homeostasis. Stasis, sorry.
That sounds more Latin.
Homeostasis is the Greek word, I think, like equilibrium is a Latin word. And there was a period when I talked about Matisse and everything else in my life that I'd always appreciated art and everything else, but it became that much more important to me. And the health-giving aspects of art and salvation and all this other kind of stuff. My little brother's a playwright, and I'm a preacher of literatures. My little sister was trained as a public health specialist. So it's health and salvation for folks, however you cut it. Homeostasis, excuse me. I'd gone through a divorce and was dealing with healing. But it wasn't just that. It was something more than that. And that was, even though I was a Methodist preacher, and the Methodists and Presbyterians and other folks had heard of the Ten Commandments, this idea that one day out of 7 you would rest was something that didn't happen in my life. Because either you say, well, you want to get to the top because you're ambitious and proud and this and that and whatever. But what I came to realize was that, like Weber said in Capitalism, Protestant Work Ethic and everything else, there was something that was there. He says it was like a canary that was in a golden cage, talking about certain aspects of early Protestant thought. I said, but the canary died. And all you had left was a cage, which I always thought was a striking thing. The Ten Commandments are there as a sense of one day out of 7 you cease working. And I have references in the books, Brueggemann and Dahl, that I would hope that you would look at and be aware of. But I just wanted to make a point that even though that's there was a Wesleyan tradition, and can be there for me, and maybe not for you, but I want to throw it out because it became something I said all the time to folks in the conference and young pastors, that Francis Asbury was the big major American person in the Methodist movement and everything else, and I was reading his journals for the dissertation and stuff, and he had this wonderful phrase. He said, I did this, and I did this, and I went there, and I did that, and then I rested from the Sabbath. I rested from the Sabbath. Of course, Sabbath means rest. Right. But there was going and working and everything else. And our culture has gotten to where there's such pressure of going and working and fast and time. Instead of, I tell my kids, I said, have any of you ever fasted before? And most of my kids were like, my college kids, oh, not me, I'm not religious. I said, oh yes, you have. Every one of you have fasted. And said, not me, not me. I said, how many folks ate breakfast this morning? And they raised their hand. Break, fast. Break, fast. We do that. We just, again, we don't see it, we don't hear it. What I try to do with all this is show and tell. I keep thinking of things with my mom when I was a little kid. Show and tell, we used to do that. And when I was a little kid, we had something. Stop, look, and listen. Stop, look, and listen. And I hadn't stopped. And I was worn out. And I was killing myself in part of whatever happened in my marriage and other things like that. And I would tie it in with some other folks, just that there was a guy named St. Augustine, and he talked about us being made in God's image and all this stuff. He said, we won't find our, this is Bill Wade's poor paraphrase, we won't find our rest till we find our rest in Him. We'll be restless till we find our rest in God. And Jesus talked about, come to me, all you guys who are laboring, because we're going to work some more. Is that what I said? Come to me, all you labor and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And, talk about him being an artist and stuff, take my yoke upon you, for it is easy and my burden is light. Compared to the world, that's the case. And the Ten Commandments, it was that took them out of Egypt. Brigham does this an excellent job. Took them out of Egypt, says, you don't belong to the world anymore. You don't belong to the masters. You're my people. I've set you free. Take a day off. Rest. And contemplation ties with that same kind of thing. And the Matisse and the art is tied with that kind of thing. The book that I gave you, I made reference, I want to read very quickly, and then we'll go on. But it was just so important to me that I share it with you. Matisse, writing about his art, many people sort of made fun of him for it, said in 1906, he's a major artist that was in the book and everything, his dream was an art of balance, of purity, serenity, devoid of troubling, depressing subject matter, an art that could be a soothing, calming influence on the mind, something like a good armchair that provides relaxation from fatigue. That sounds like, that's not real deep, is it? But his work does that, and the colors and the design, and I think that that can be the case, and hopefully would be the case. And in this book, the writer goes and speaks to a nun and asks the nun and herself, what is it that the contemplative life is all about? What would be the core of it? What would you understand it to be? And the answer was leisure. And he said, what do you mean, leisure? Not prayer, not this, not, again, but all that in the midst of it. But leisure. And then she says, it takes time. There's holy time and holy space, and God has rhythms and homeostasis, stasis. I want to give Sister credit for that. A balance.
And the
You all know that, don't you? Oh, you have to have the rest, don't you? You have no Beethoven unless you have the rest. It's just gibberish, noise. Our lives become the same way. And art and everything else goes with that. All right, excuse me, sister.
I was just going to say, and part of what you and I connected really is that the body seeks that.
And body seeks it.
The body is made by God.
And the soul does too.
To find it. It will seek that place, and it will take you down to make you rest if you don't stop, because the body says no. Eventually.
And if you go, I think it's Isaiah said, the land will have its rest. We will take you away, and it will be the rest, and they'll have Sabbaths for the years while you're in exile, but the land will have its rest, and you will rest in peace, or you will rest now.
That's right.
Hopefully in peace. Anyway, so Sabbath and rest, and we have lost that. That was something that the Protestants at least kept there, that we have maybe kept the golden cage, lost the canary. I think that's it. I want to make the point about Sabbath rest and meditation and how that ties with art and worship and the seasons and women's spaces and health. Okay. So, the other thing, the little thing, my wife wrote it out, and it goes with Mama, the sampler that was up here, and the little child wrote it. She learned her letters, and she learned everything else, and sewing, and the verse, and they're like this over and over and over again. Jesus, permit thy gracious name to stand as the first effort of an infant's hand, and as her fingers on the canvas move, instruct her tender heart to seek thy love. With thy dear children, let her have a part, and write thy name, thyself upon her heart. The little children in art and feminist art of the period. So, Carl Gustav Nelson, I was fortunate enough to find some things by him that are downstairs. I love lineaments, but I also love color. I love both. And we have Rollins' beautiful works, and we have Mr. Gustav Nelson's works, Carl's. And this is a picture of him. 1898 to 1988, he came over from Sweden. Whoops, next one. And there he is with his pipe and a little bit older. And there he is with looking like Santa Claus. And there he is with greetings. In May, after close to half a century of teaching, I retired and moved from Boston to this island, a unique design located just off the coast of Mount Desert Island, Maine, where I purchased a house and 8 acres of woodland and meadow reaching to the shore. To the south and south, situated on the main road and easy of access at all seasons. The island's name is Cranberry, one of a group of 5 where I learned, since even in my own meadow provides me with the delicious highland cranberries. With a garden, studio, and wood stove, I shall lack neither pleasure nor occupation, and books and music will round out the day, and a woodlot will provide firewood and muscle-tone, and the garden flowers and vegetables for my table, to watch the day progress from morning till darkness takes over, and to follow the seasons as they change from the lush flowering of wild, pear in May to the opulence of summer, and then move on to yellow tamarack and wild rose hedges and burnt orange, and finally take rest in a cover of pure white under dark evergreens, will surely be a cycle of full measure. The deer play appetites of the pear. Deer pay almost daily visits, and the voracious appetites of the chickadees know no bounds. They are both good neighbors, and I shall be cutting my own Christmas tree for the first time in excellent health. I'm looking forward to retirement as a very exciting adventure. Please note my new address, and please use it, Carl Nelson, Tosh Park, Cranberry Isle. We wish that for you, Alan. You and your retirement, and that you can be able to enjoy some of the things that he did in retirement. That was the home, even though they built it up a little bit more. And here he is. I don't think that looks quite like you yet, Rollin. And one of the things they said was he had colorful clothes. Like me. And here he is, you see his outfits and everything else and whatnot. And then there he is, and he's cooking. And I know Rollin has a beautiful garden and loves all kinds of things. And I think probably, I have to guess, he's a good cook as well, and some other things that way. But look at the walls. Look at the and everything. Wait a second. Okay, there he is on his 80th birthday. And you see the black and white, a lot of cuts down there, but this is his color. I just want you to see the color. His 80th birthday. Here's an example. 1922, a landscape. He was a younger man. He won a Timpani scholarship in 32, 33, which was off of the Timpani Latin person and the wealth that he had up in Long Island, and he was there, and that was an honor for him to do that. And he went out, and these are watercolors that he did. I went and found all the images that I could besides the ones that we had downstairs. Here's another one that way with the watercolors. He worked with, I don't know if it's the WPA or the Treasury, but he did the work, and when artists were paid by the government to have at least a living kind of subsistence wage. And this is one of his works that is in Smithsonian. With Central Park, and I just sort of point out that it is a park in a city, sort of like what this area is in, with the Playhouse and Square, the Circuit Play, and then you got the Overton Park, and you got the golf course, and you got the Shell, and you got the zoo, and you got the Brooks, at least for a little bit. We hope we keep the Brooks, and the arts, and leisure, and rest, and in the big city. Here he is in New York at that time. And under the big top, here we are with having entertainment, amusement, and flow with the animals and everything else. No longer will we have all that because of certain ethical concerns for animals, but the motion and the flow and what the big top was, and again, it's play and performance. And 35, I keep not doing it right. Here they are on a picnic. Would you like to go into the big top? Would you like to go into the park? Does it make you want to be in places like that and to enjoy them? These are some flower things he did in 1940. This is a drawing, but again, with statuary out in a Sylvan kind of woodland park scene. And then he started to move towards, which is not uncommon at this time, more towards an abstract kind of period in 48. And this is an island there in Maine that you see. And guess what? There's a white dove showing up in his work, Rollin. Made me think of somebody else. There's the dove, and there's your shapes and forms. Goes on 45, Pumpkin Light and Deer Isle. And then we go to a rock pool. But if I didn't tell you it was a rock pool, would you have figured it out, or would you have called it an abstract, or whatever? And then we get bicyclists. Anybody bicycle? Anybody be out on the road and see everybody bicycling around Cairo? So everybody out bicycling and everything. How bicycling was a big thing at the turn of the century, from the early 1900s, but health, but abstract, play, another one. And here's an abstract 48, but with figures that are coming in like as angels, lobster claws. Here's an angelic kind of figure. And that's moving towards the full abstract, 52. And I'm not exactly sure on all the dates. I've pieced them together as best I can. There is Pumpkin Island Lighthouse. If you look, you can see a lighthouse if you start looking close. But that's agitated blue. Do you think a German expressionist could have been able to do something like that, Ron, with agitated blue and colors and whatever? What about yellowish? You know, we had up here before into the underworld and stuff. Maybe it's hellish instead of yellowish with the colors. Different colors affect me, not you, in different ways. Then an abstract in 62, and the flowers, the film in 63. These are more sort of realistic, but again, kitchen scene with flowers. I think of my grandmother and others with the flowers and food and fruit. And how pretty it was out here, the table that you all fixed for us. It was so lovely, and how nice it looked. The arrangements and hospitality and beauty, poppies and lilies. That reminds me of certain Matisse kinds of things. And then this is toward, I believe, the end of his life, still life, throwing on poppies. Phineas, he enjoyed his flowers. Summer landscape. Would you like to go somewhere off the coast of Maine and have a vacation and rest and not have to go to work and be out there? Maybe read a book. Have time to read a book and just take it easy. Pleasure. Very things not unlike what Matisse was doing, except with Adelesque. Boats. These are toward the end with the trees and the birches. This is toward, likened to the first one. Study for Angels. This was small. And this was called The Poet, which sort of makes me think of the way he looked. In 1979, he had this small book we have up here, and you can be able to look at it if you wish, that the kinds of linoleum cuts that are downstairs were published in this book. It's a limited edition. It's not that many of them. And we were able to find images. This one is not downstairs. Hugh's having the king's birthday in 1944. So I'm just going to go through. This was the feast. I don't know if he was playing off of things with King Herod and the feast, and I don't know. But the Expressionism, he did Boston Expressionism and things. Expressionism, among other kinds of things. The Rouault that I did earlier and the Matisse were, interesting enough, both French Expressionists, and he is an American or Boston Expressionist. I found Rollin through Jelinsky, who was a Russian-German Expressionist. But it's like, it's not so much important that it looks like a photograph, that looks exactly representational on the outside, because at this time, people became more concerned to be able to, that the artist would express whatever they saw or their feelings or emotions, and to express through their artwork something that was interior. So it didn't have to necessarily look like something outside of the real world. And abstract expressionism sort of went that full way, where you couldn't necessarily see a ducky or a horsey or a lighthouse or whatever else. But this one strand, the German expressionism, especially in Boston, kept the human figure. Because the human figure, Paul Tillich, a theologian in the early 1950s, and abstract expressionism had gotten so involved in everything. It's like, we're beyond the figure, and we're modern, and we're beyond looking at old things and church history, and we'll just have abstract expressionism, where nobody can be able to have a form that looks like anything in nature, because it's totally interior. And Tillich said, is art going to forget human beings? And as a theologian, he thought that was a mistake. And we would, as Christians, to think that we need to also keep the importance of the creation of human beings. So this is expressive. And then you have this series, just for what it's worth, began in the 40s, and he would do them as Christmas presents to friends. Generally seemed to be in editions of about 50. And I've received some wonderful presents from artists in Memphis that nobody else got. And that even, any of you all ever had something that, Mama, did you ever put up a picture that Marilyn or Les or I drew when we were little bitty at school? Not yours. You didn't do it. You don't think so. I did cowboys. Someplace in our house would never throw anything away. There's pictures of me drawing cowboys. I mean, I never got beyond that. But it was there. Other people like Whitney and other folks here that are artists, went beyond that. But the idea that he did them for friends and that he based them off the Prince of Peace and the life of Christ. And that's basically what I've been fortunate enough to find that many, because think about it, if there were editions of 50 at the most and they were given to friends, just how often are you going to pop one to them? And only through the wonders of eBay and being able to look at the whole world and millions of things, one could be able to do that. This is a witness to the people. This is called the Great Prophet. Whitney named them all for me. I'm not going to know if they're the right order or right names. Pierce of the soul. This is talking about how Mary's soul will be pierced as well in the Gospels. Mary and the Lord. The Nativity. You can see it's changing. Sometimes it's more open. Sometimes it's more involved. And as wonderful as it is to see it up here on PowerPoint or to see it on the computer and everything else, the real thing's down there. And it looks different when you see the real thing. Transfiguration. Garden of Gethsemane. The way of the cross. The crown with many thorns. It is finished. He's not here. I remember, I can't remember the guy's name, Peter Lapidus, a Nobel Prize winner, that they had the story, what Nobel Prize, anyway, I'll tell you the story, that they are looking for, they come and the guards come to Pilate and they say, well, where is he? And he said, because the tomb is empty. And they said, where is he? And he says, he's loose in the world. He's loose in the world. I love that. He's not here. He's loose in the world. The ascension. And at the ascension, that's where this phrase that sort of goes back to not just Wesley, all of us and everything else. Jesus said that I'm going to come back next week and set up the kingdom, and you guys don't have to worry about it. Did he say that? No. He said, they asked him that question. They're always saying, we're going to set up the kingdom. We're going to set up the kingdom. We're ready to rule. And everything said, you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria and the whole world. Guess what? That's what we're called to be witnesses. And forgive me in the theology real quick, but I think it was a liberating thing for me. I came from a tradition originally that sort of put the emphasis, rightly so, that St. Paul is saying that we should study to work to show, study to show our workmanship, and that we, do a good job of defending the faith, making apologetic, and using debating skills and all that kind of stuff. But it was such a freeing thing for me to realize we're called to be witnesses. And the witnesses are not supposed to make up stuff that didn't happen, or talk about things they never experienced. If you were to be in court, I'm going to keep picking on you, Colin. Is that okay? Can I pick on you? Colin, we bring you into court, and you're supposed to be telling us about what happened, whatever you did. And I were to say, Colin, did you fly over the moon? And you're saying, well, maybe if everybody will believe about it, God maybe where I can fly over the moon and people will really believe and everything else. But that's not, did you in fact fly over the moon? No. Oh, so we're supposed to stick to the truth, huh? I'm the way, the truth, and the light. The truth's sort of important and stuff like that. And so you're just supposed to tell your story. What God has done in your life. That's your job. That's it. Now we proclaim it and everything else, but to be a witness. Now, in a court, if there's a person who's a witness and everything else, is there somebody else in the courtroom? Yeah. Who else is in the courtroom besides the jury or the judge? Who else is there? A lawyer. John's Gospel tells us that the Holy Spirit is the Paraclete. He's the lawyer. It's the Holy Spirit's job to convict people of the truth. Conviction, we talked in your list of what the purposes are. One is conviction. Luther talks about law and gospel, that amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Please forgive me, but do we have a minute to sing Amazing Grace if I remember? I hope. Somebody help me. I don't always remember. Can we do it in a Methodist way?
We're going to sing it this afternoon.
Well, let me do it here again, real quick. I know we want to do it. What's the number? You have words? No? This is great. Let me show you how I want to do it, okay? There's a reason to this. This is terrible. The only reason why I'm doing this is I don't trust myself. 397, 77. There it is, 378 in ours. Old Methodists. We talk about Old Methodists and stuff like that. I always like to do this. Now, if you didn't have a hymnal, do the Old Methodists all have hymnals? No. Could all Old Methodists read? Right. Talking about they couldn't read right. Maybe they could see pictures. We didn't have that many pictures. We should have been having some more pictures. But what could they do? They had poetry. Their hymn books. They didn't have a book of common prayer or a missal or whatever. They had their hymn books. And that was their poetry. And they kept it, and they prayed with it, and they used it. But you would have somebody, and it could be that maybe you all couldn't sing word, but one person could be able to line a hymn. And the person would sit there and sing, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. And you'd sing, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. That saved a wretch like me. That saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. Was blind, but now I see. One more line. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear. And grace my fears relieved. And grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear. How precious did that grace appear. The hour I first believed. The hour I first believed. The reason why I wanted to sing that, will give you an example that you could do it, be there, and not have to have a full choir, not have to have instrumental music. You could be able to have it with one person not even on the book who was smart enough to remember it. You could have led it that way. But the phrase that the grace taught my heart to fear, and then my fears relieved. That the Holy Spirit, the Paraclete, convicts us of sin, but then tells us the grace and love of Jesus Christ. So that you have that sense of the lawyer, and the ascension is, we're not to where we have to make this all happen. I used to think I had to preach so well and be such a great teacher and do everything right, or nobody would be able to ever be saved because it was all on Bill Wade's shoulders, and that's tough. Isn't it wonderful? It's not on my shoulders,
Amen.
or your shoulders, or anybody's shoulders. Except Jesus on the cross and raised from the dead, the gift of the Holy Spirit, alive in our midst, seeking all of us, bringing us to His love, perfecting us in His grace. The baptism of Jesus, the importance of the liturgical aspect of baptism and life and death and everything. I want you to look at the image of this fellow. I'm not saying it's pretty. Now look, you can see you have the dove, but you can see if you had the icons and or any of the images of the early church. Whoa! What does it look like? Does it look like that guy? Yeah? Now, what I think is really neat, there was, not all the art, believe it or not, when Whitney said, Dr. Wade, do you want to say anything? How many of you think I wanted to say anything? Yes, always, of course. There's a reason why. As one of the folk, the Cone sisters up in Baltimore that collected the major Matisse collection in the world that's close to us, and Dr. Carabel Clone said, collecting is a way of seeing. It's a way of seeing. And this collection was, for me, a way of seeing. And it may make no sense to anybody else, but it helped me, and hopefully it will be a way of seeing for others in the future. Carl Gustav Nelson. Well, anybody ever heard of Paul Harvey? I know I'm old, I'm showing my age. Any of y'all old enough to have ever heard of Paul? Paul Harvey would tell you this and that, and then what would he say? And the rest of the story is The Giver. Are any of you familiar with a book by Lois Lowry called The Giver? And there's his picture. And there she is. And that little thing right there, Ariella, what does that tell us? That little thing right there, what does it tell us?
The Newbery Award.
The Newbery Award for Children's Literature, etc. And then she went on finally to do the Giver Quartet. And then we even had a movie that was done off of it, combining all the arts of something that was a person that would do painting, but then influence a person who does writing, and then the painting and the writing cross and comes up with the image of the giver, and then it goes to the children's book, and then literally millions of children read this book. And it's on book lists and required reading for lots of folks. And it's also controversial, because art is always controversial, almost without fail. And some people don't want folks to read it because of some of the things in it. And then it ended up being a movie. I think that's pretty interesting and pretty exciting. And I wanted to share one more quote with you in her acceptance speech about, am I close almost in time for a change, or I'm only 20 minutes over? I'm still over time? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Never fails. In her acceptance speech, she said, and she was a photographer and a writer. Okay.
Minivan parked in a handicapped spot. Your door is open.
Yeah, that'd be great if you wouldn't mind. Thank you.
In the summer of 1979, I was sent by a magazine I'm working for to an island off the coast of Maine to write an article about a painter who lives there alone. I spent a deal of time with this man, and we talked a lot about color. It is clear to me that although I'm a highly visual person, a person who sees and appreciates form and composition and color, this man's capacity for seeing color goes far beyond mine. I photographed him while I was here and kept a copy of this photograph for myself because there's something about his face, his eyes, which haunt me. Where did it go? Something about his face that haunts me. Later, I hear he has become blind. I think about him. His name is Carl Nelson from time to time. His photograph hangs over my desk. I wonder what it was like for him to lose the colors about which he was so impassioned. And now and then I wish in a whimsical way that he could have somehow magically given me the capacity to see the way he did. And then she uses this image throughout the whole speech. A little bubble begins, a little spurt, which trickles into a river. Another major influence for the book was another fragment. My father, nearing 90, is in a nursing home. And she talks about how, as so often happens to us in our loved ones, that they lose memory. And what is it like to lose memory? And somebody said to her, well, do we really have to remember all the things that are bad? And she talked about, somebody came up and asked her about the Holocaust. Do we have to remember all the things that were bad? And she wrote the book, and you had a society where everything was made where there were no problems. Everything was great. And it was a perfect world. And one person was given the responsibility of all the memory, with the sadness and the loss and the hurt, pain. And it came a time that he is going to be leaving this world, and they needed a new little boy to take his place. And he's also called the receiver, but he's called the giver. And the little boy raises the question, will he take these things on? And he looks at his society and sees that maybe it's not so perfect after all, because they've made it to where you can't remember going down a sled in the snow. It makes it where you can't have the pictures like we see. It makes it to where everything is without joy or without pain and sorrow. Everything is like a numbed, drugged experience. Would you want to live in that world? Which is why, besides the questions of euthanasia and other things raised in the book, the controversial book, do you give them to children? When do you ever give art to children? When do you speak of truth? Or, like Savior said, the four things of worship are dread and awe, or delight, both positive and negative, and the truth. But if you were to only give them that and not give them hope, wouldn't that be a terrible thing? And we, the faith that we have, the promises that we have, can be able in worship, in art, in our lives, difficult as it may be, through the loss of a marriage, or the icons for me was when my daddy went to heaven, or anything that's been in my life or whatever, that we can in worship and in art express these things and be both those who receive and those who give. To be human. Because we believe there's a God who loves us and will bring us home. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you for listening.
Yes, it's for the camera.
Not for very long.
You've heard us talk about Rollin all day long. Now you're going to officially get to meet him. This is Rollin Kosis, and he is our exhibit artist. He is the primary artist for the Wade collection of the permanent art collection that the Wade family has donated to Memphis Theological Seminary. He taught in the school system for years and years and has been, now I can't think of, a curator of a couple of galleries, including at Christian Brothers University most recently. He's just retired. He says, finally, for the third time, he thinks it's going to take. And so, but still painting regularly in his studio at home, and we are happy about that. I'm looking forward, and I know that you are too. Please welcome Rollin Kosis.
No autographs, please. I just want to tell you a funny story that happened. It's called Something Happened to Me on the Way to the Symposium. I didn't intend to be this bald today.
Okay.
And I'm normally bald, but I'm not this bald. But yesterday, when I was getting ready at work or at home, I cut my own hair, and I have a guard on it, that keeps your hair about a certain length. So I'm just cutting along, and it just doesn't seem to be going very fast. And I'm thinking, well, I need some oil. So I take the guard off, and I put the oil on, and then I start cutting my hair again. I forgot to put the guard back on. So there you have it.
Really, Rollin looked like that behind him before he did his hair. No, just see.
Looks good.
But anyhow, I thought, well, when you don't have much hair, you don't have a lot to do with it. But fortunately for us guys that way, it's sort of in fashion now. So we're okay. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Excuse me. I was born in South Bend, Indiana, and what's unusual about our connection is Dr. Wade had his doctorate at Notre Dame, which is in South Bend. I went to Indiana University in Bloomington and then attended the University of Memphis. I taught for 37 years with the Memphis City schools, many different schools. Overton, probably the highlight of my
the spotlight school to begin with.
the highlight of my career was a creative and performing arts high school, and then I decided to quit teaching, so I lost that position. Was out for a year, didn't make any money, couldn't get a job, so I came back to teaching. I had withdrawn my entire, my retirement, so I had to actually build up and pay it back again. But I managed to do that. I've done everything. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, as I say. I love all kinds of art. I think that's what an art teacher does, is you have to know a little bit of everything. And I love it all. I love pottery and sculpture and printmaking and painting. I decided to get my master's in painting only because I thought, if I go into pottery, you got to have a kiln, and that's a lot of stuff to carry around. And so really painting was the easiest. I can do it anywhere, and I can carry it and so forth. So that was that. After I retired, I was an artist at Gallery 56, which was on Central, and they needed a part-time person to fill in for the director on weekends. So I did that, and then I morphed into the director. Was there for 5.5 years. Then I decided, okay, I'll retire for the second time. And then out of the clear blue sky, Brother Worley asked if I would be interested in working with him and finally in the Christopher Brothers University Gallery. And one of our favorite sayings that helped me out on this, Brother Worley, is the sign of God is
That we will be led where we did not find.
and that is so true. It is so true. I've gone so many places that I never dreamed that I would be, and things happen to me. So it's a good thing. I studied photography, jewelry, sculpture. I did a lot of photography. But like I said, I finally settled for painting, even though I still do a little of this and that every once in a while. Dr. Wade and I connected. I had a basement full of art. Over 40, 50 years of doing art. And I said, I don't want to die with my own collection. So I said, you know what, I'm going to put it on eBay. And I have a little app on my phone. And it's an eBay app. And every time I make a sale on eBay, it goes, cha-ching. It's a little cash register symbol. And so I'm in my studio working one day, and I hear, ka-ching. Okay, great. Oh, I sold something. Ka-ching. 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 The whole day long, this guy right here was buying my art. And when everything was finished, I think you have over 200 pieces. And he's donated most of them, some to Christian Brothers and some to Memphis Theological. So I'm very grateful for that.
Very grateful for you.
What a nice thing. Well, anyhow, I'm here today to tell you a little bit about printmaking. And I think probably before we begin, we need to have an understanding of the difference between what a reproduction is and what an original print is. And I think a lot of people have a misconception. When I say a reproduction, let's just say that I have a work of art and I photograph it, send it to a printer, and they do a lithograph. And let's say I want to do an edition of 500. Well, you can do that. However, remember that it's a machine-made print. It's a lithograph, which to me, and I don't want to sound snobbish, but to me it's about worth as much as the paper is. It's all it is just a mass-produced. So don't let anybody, I've got print 50 of 500, don't let anybody fool you. Now, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, because after all, it is art. And I, in fact, wrote some of the advantages of having a reproduction. First of all, you can't always afford the fine art, the best art, and it is art. And plus, it's good for the artist, because it's a way of them getting their work out. But I would really prefer to have what's known as an original print. Now, they're prints, but each one has to have the hand of the artist in it somehow, either through a silk screen or through a lino cut, which I will go through those a little bit at a time. Let's talk about editions also before I get into it. I'm sure you've all seen things like this. You have a print, and then at the print, usually right or left side, it'll say like 2 of 50. Do you all understand that? It's the second print of 50 made. And of course, the larger the number, if you have 250 over 5,000, Well, what does that tell you? That's, yeah, everybody's got one of those. But, so this, it's just, this first print is not any more important than the third print. It's just a way of the artist being able to keep track of the prints that they have. How many are there and which print is that? So it's just a way of keeping track of the images. Let's see if I missed anything else. Oh, one disadvantage of printmaking in general. With a painting is three-dimensional. It has width and depth and height. And it really doesn't, you can have the frame, but nowadays this is called gallery wrap, where they take the canvas and wrap it around so the staples are on the backside. And you really don't have to have a frame with this if you don't want. I think and a lot of the contemporary homes now just have like this. You can paint the edges. I see a lot of the artists now take their artwork and just blend it around the side, so when you look at it, you really can't tell the edge. But I got off track there for a second. What was I talking about? Oh, the disadvantage. The disadvantage of having a print is you got to get it framed. And if you all know anything about framing, sometimes the framing and the matting is just as expensive as the print itself, sometimes more. So I love prints, I love to have them, but there are advantages and disadvantages. I can take the painting, let's say like this, and if I wanted to, I could sell this for $500, I hope. But I can take a print like this, and even though it's an original, I can make 50 of them and sell each of those for $10. So you can help people by creating prints that they can afford and have something, and then you don't have to create something brand new every time. So that's another advantage of having the prints. All right, now what I want to do is kind of break it down into the different types of prints, and that's the handout that you should have in front of you. At the very top of this page, it's called Types of Original Prints, if you have that. Woodcuts, engravings, etchings, mezzotints, aquatints, dry coins, lithography, silkscreen printing, which is also serigraphy, I can't speak today, monotype, mixed media prints, digital prints, and of course photography is a type of a print, and also is a G-clay. But for today's purpose, I'm going to break it down into the 4 basic types: relief, intaglio, planographic, and stencil. And I'll just spend a little bit of time on each one. Because this show that we have today deals with linocuts. Now, linocut comes from linoleum, and now these are old, these actually are out there. You can see them. This is the original piece. You just take a piece of linoleum, and by the way, this probably couldn't even, so old, it probably couldn't be cut anymore. And you have a series of tools, and you can buy a set like this, and there's various cutting styles. There's a V shape, and so forth and so on. There's, depending on how wide or thin or rounded you want the shape to be, you pop it in there, which I can't seem to do right now. But you pop that in there, and then you would just carve. You carve away. By the way, be sure to put your hand behind and not in front, because I've jabbed myself many times. And so you cut away, and then everything you cut away will be white, and what you don't cut away will be the color of the image. And so this is this is called You and Me. And then this is the one out there also.
You can see what they are out
here.
here.
This is the opposite. It's a reverse. And I don't know if this one's out there or not, the one with the bird's eye view.
Right outside.
Okay. So
Sometimes I appreciate his humor as well as his beauty.
Well, I have
Bird's eye view there with that.
and here, this is a linocut. This is actually, I probably wanted to say it, but I didn't know what I was going to paint or draw. But I printed with black first, and then I put blue on top. It just kind of changes the look of it a little bit. Let's see what else. I lost my track again. Let's see. I lost my piece of paper. That didn't matter. So that's linocuts. Do you have any questions about what a linocut is? And in a minute, in fact, if we have time, we might even try it now. I've got another way to do a print. And that's where you take and either raise or lower the surface. So I did some really quick things at home the other day. This is just some string that I glued onto a piece of cardboard. And we're going to ink this, and then we'll put a print on top and peel it, and you'll get a print that way. And I took some cardboard and cut the design out, and then I put some polymer over it to give it a little resistance to the water, and we'll try to print that. And also, you can't see it very well, but here's also another cardboard print. So I'd like to know if there'd be anybody who'd like to come up and volunteer to make us a print. Anybody want to try it? All right, come on.
I'm excited.
Yes. All right, so what we're going to do is I've got a piece of plexiglass. You could use glass or whatever. And we have printer's ink. This is speedball
Is
ink.
it black?
I think it is. Or maybe very, very dark blue. No, it's black. All right. So we're going to squeeze some ink on there. Now what I want you to do is, I'm going to start it for you. I'm going to roll this out. But one of the things that people have trouble with is they usually use too much ink. That's what the kids did at school. And that was a big blob. So if you just kind of let some air get to that, just kind of move it back and forth and left and right. We're going to let it do that until it gets tacky, okay? And then, all right, that's good. Now you're going to transfer that ink onto here. Just roll it on top, all over the whole thing. Just roll it, can't hurt a thing. There you go. And then kind of go left and right and up and down. You might want to ink up your pad again. While he's doing that, you can print on plain paper, or you can take a piece of paper and do a drawing, or put some pastels on it, or do a watercolor. And I went to the art center and I got this lovely, they have all kinds of paper down there. It's expensive, but it's beautiful. And I thought, well, let's do a print on top of something that's kind of decorative. So I think we're just about there. And the thing is, you don't want to get too much ink. You want enough, but not too much. So we're going to lay this on top, and you put your brayer down. And we're going to just very carefully put that on top. And now if you will just very gently rub your hand over that, just kind of move it around. And there's even a little tool. Now the thing about printmaking is you really do need a press. You know, where you turn it and it goes through. Because it's a lot of work to make a print with using your hand. I'll tell you, you have to wear yourself out. So this looks pretty good. And so here we go. All right, now I can see it's coming up where I can see we're gonna need more ink. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna leave it where it is. We're gonna just back this up and we're gonna put a little bit more ink on there, okay? So right there. Go ahead and just roll that out a little bit. And you just keep testing it until you have enough ink. All right, go the other direction. There you go. See, we don't want to lose the registration of this, so go ahead and just everywhere you want to go, up and down, left and right. Come up to the center a little bit more. There you go. Okay, good. Now we're going to flip this around. That's good. All right, and then we're going to take this and put this over on this side, flip it over here, and do that side. There you go. You're doing great. All right, that's good. And then we'll take this again. We're going to rub it. And if we had more time, we would we would continue to do this until we have a complete image. We'll just pull it off now to kind of give you an idea of what we got. So we've just created our first print. Should we do another one, or is that, want to do another one?
You got it now.
John did excited.
You got it.
All right, let's try a string print, okay?
Yeah.
So you might want to ink that up. Here's
Some more black.
Uh-huh. Put a little more ink on there. Pull that around. And this time we'll use a different kind of paper.
So what do you need the press for?
Because it gives you a much cleaner, it really pushes it, you know what I
So
mean?
you put, like you said that paper on that string, you run it through the press then, instead of doing it with your hands, which you
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, ink that good. Now, yeah, go ahead. You're going to get some, that's okay. You're going to get some on the face, but that gives it the character because you never know what's going to show up when you, just make sure you get all your strings covered. Mhm.
It's very neat.
Oh,
I never would have thought of it.
I love printmaking. It's just a fun thing to do, and you get something useful also. There you go. Let's try.
So
this.
it's work, but it's play.
Oh yeah, that's what art is.
I never would have thought of putting strings on, like glue some strings on the paper.
You can do anything that's going to raise the surface. You can just take some Elmer's glue and draw the Elmer's glue on top, let it dry, put another layer on top of that until and then it's called a blueprint.
Roland, just as a shameless plug, we have all the materials to do that sort of print
Very
available
good.
in the studio.
There you go.
And this one, now see, this one would really need a press.
It's 2 buildings over in Hilliard.
Let's go ahead and try it.
You just want to eat?
Yeah, gotta put some more ink. I don't know if this is going to come out or not. I didn't have any real thin string.
Where's your
My ink is right there. You go. There you go. The string print may not turn out too good. While he's doing that, go ahead.
You'll figure it out, honey.
All right. Well, you know what you just did? You took it off, and because of that, now it's going to be hard to register. But we'll try. I don't think we're going to have very good luck with this.
You want to turn it on upside?
Probably be pretty messy. Just that one. Let's leave this one aside. Tell you what, I've got one more for you to do, okay? Here's another cardboard. This should work. All right. Let's put a little bit more ink on here.
That was a good
There you
learning
go.
moment.
There you go. Okay.
That's exactly right.
So what do one of them presses cost?
Press, if you're going to get a good one, I would say beginning at $500.
That's not bad.
But they have smaller ones. The problem with buying a press is that they're not going to sell them probably locally. You'll have to get them shipped to you, and it's the shipping that's going to kill you. You know what I mean? Because they're so heavy.
Yeah, but if we don't work, you can take a vacation, we'll pick it up. We can make some t-shirts, probably.
Well, we're going to get in that in a minute. All right, let me get some more paper.
I don't want to work, I can just pack up my camera, go wherever I want.
I was always interested, but I never
Mine is got a lot of
understood
ink,
it.
but who knows? We're going to find out.
And that's-
All right, we're gonna try this one real quick.
Interested. Oh, most of mine, yeah, but I never realized how to, until now, how to make it.
This one, see what I mean? If we worked with that, it would be better, but because we're hurrying, see it's like still life with a flower and a window. All right, let's give the man a hand. Pardon me?
How'd you raise it up on that one?
How do I raise it up?
Yeah. how
Oh,
did you make
it's
difference?
white cardboard on white cardboard. That's why you couldn't see it from where you are. It's just pieces of cardboard cut up. Okay, moving along to the next kind of print. But the whole point I was trying to make is a wood block print, a linoleum print, a cardboard print. They're called relief prints because one surface is higher than the other. And when you're let's take a side view of a lino cut. Here's the base of a lino cut. And then here's a piece of linoleum, and there's a cut, and there's a piece of linoleum, and then there's a cut. And so when the roller comes across, it's going to ink this, not that, ink this, not that, and so you print. See, it's just the highest. So the ink is actually going on the top surfaces, and I'm going to contrast that with another one in just a minute, as soon as I get to that, which is called intaglio, which involves etchings, engravings, mezzotints, aquatints, and so forth. And that's where you have a piece of metal, and you have a piece of metal. Let's say this is a really close-up, microscopic look at a piece of a metal, and you take either a tool and gouge into the metal, or you take some acid, and it's a process where you have to coat the plate with tar-like substance, and you draw into it. Then you put it into a bath of acid, and the acid eats into the metal where the design is. And so when you roll the ink out onto it, then the ink goes in the crevices, see? And so now you have more of a linear work of art. And these are etchings. Now these are actually color etchings, but so this is where the ink was within the little cracks. Pass that around. Here's another etching over here. Pass that around. And here's another little etching. I want to tell you about this. This is a side story. I suggest go to Goodwill sometime because when I was about 15 or 16 years old, I was just looking for some frames to hang my artwork with. And so I found this little piece, this little picture. This was maybe 50 cents. I get it home on the back. This is an original French etching by Burgel, B-U-R-G-E-L, and it's a limited edition. And I lucked out on this for about 50 cents.
Wow.
So you can pass that around too if you want to. So that's the opposite. Where relief print, wood cut, block print, the ink is on the surface of the plate, whereas an etching, the ink is in the cracks. Does that make sense? Then there's a thing called an aquatint. And an aquatint is where you take, is there too much glare? Are you okay with this? An aquatint is where you take some type of a powdered resin and you shake it or put it on there, and then you take this whole thing and put it into a bath of acid, and where the resin is not, it eats into the metal, and then you wipe it with a rag, and you wipe it and wipe it and wipe it, and get all that ink into the surface of it, and then you wipe it off, and then so this gives you the value. Can you see the values, the different values? And this is sort of a combination. Can you see the face in there? So this is St. Peter's, and this is the Lord of the Pigs. So this is an aquatint, which is really closely related to an etching. And then, let's see, moving on to the last one, I think.
Whoa, that I showed you a bunch of remaining aquatints from the Miserere series, if I remember correctly.
Uh-huh. All right, then another type of print we have is called a G-clay. And this is by our Memphis photographer, Paul Clark, who had a show at Christian Brothers. And Paul is a very fine photographer, and he has a wonderful print, a wonderful, what do you call it? Printer, a printer, duh. This is just run through a computer, and it's with archival ink. And there is a photographic process of creating an image, but this is actually done, and he has a wide printer and he prints these, and it's with very good ink. So this is just a G-clay, which is a fancy name for a computer-generated print. Okay, so that's what a G-clay is. And if you ever buy a G-clay, make sure that you get it with archival ink. Okay? And then moving right along, and by the way, okay. All right, now we're going to move on to the last one, which is a monotype. Now, a monotype is, mono means what? One. So we do a print, and it's just one print at a time. I don't know how this is going to work, but I meant to bring a, let's see what I can do. Or we'll just try the back of this. I'll do something real simple. Alright, so I did that. This is paper. So I just drew into the ink. You lay a piece of paper on top. You rub it like that. And then you see you also have a print. Of course, you can get way much more involved, but it's just drawing right into the ink and then printing it from that. And that's called a monotype. And then finally, the silkscreen. Everybody familiar with silkscreen prints? Silkscreen prints are used everywhere. On our shirts, on your shampoo bottles, very, very highly used commercially. And this is the concept of a silkscreen. You take a design and you cut a hole into it. Okay, there's some designs. Star. And then I could take those and lay them onto a piece of paper, and take a sponge, and I could create a design. And what happens is the design is created because there's a hole in the template. So let's just take that same concept and transfer that to a frame that has a piece of cloth. Here it is, a piece of silkscreen cloth. And you just take this to get your frame built up. You have to take this and you make your own screen. You put this on here and you staple the side and get it really, really tight as it's done there. And through there are many different ways to put a design in. This one happens to be a photographic. Can you see the image in there? Can you see the man? And then there's another image right here. It's very, very similar. And in fact, I know that Christian Brothers has a copy of this. And do you have one too? Of Man in the City?
I don't know if I have One outside of Scripture.
Okay.
I think
Well, anyhow, this was a student of mine. I took a photograph and I put a photographic emulsion on top of this that was sensitive to the light. And you lay this on the table, you put it's called a codolith, which is just a transparency with black on it. And you put a light on it for about 30 minutes and you take it to the sink and rinse out. Wherever the light didn't go, the screen will wash away. And where the design was, it'll stay. And so I did a couple of these, and when you put the two together, they create a two-sided image. I mean, a double image. Something like this would be black, and that could be orange or whatever, and they work together. And those, here's an example. I didn't have a copy of those. Of that. But see, these are two silk screens, and see, I just decided to change the colors on them. And so, for example, if you see this, how many screens were used? How many screens do you think they used?
3.
They used 3. It was on white paper, and then I used blue ink, orange ink, and black ink. So how many screens would I have to have? 3. Yeah. And then this one, are these the same? No, they're not exactly the same. Because see, this one, can you see where I mixed the yellow and the orange together, So anyhow, what you do is after your screen is prepared, and there's many different ways you can make a screen. Let's just say I have a blank screen like this. I can take some contact paper, cut a design out of contact paper, lay it on top, put that down, get my ink, put the ink in there, bring it over here to a frame, and it's good to have something here to hold it together. Naturally, it's not going to work for me, but I'll just pretend like it does. And the reason you want to do this is because you want to make sure that it registers. You have to have a piece of paper exactly in the same place for each print. Otherwise, your prints are going to be out. Have you ever seen the comic books where the colors outside the line? Or like the picture in the flyer that I have for the Last Supper. I got a copy where the colors are shifted, where you got 2 images. So anyhow, you put your ink in here, and then you take the squeegee, put your paper underneath, and then you just pull that across, lift it up, take it out, put another piece of paper in, take it out, put another one in. T-shirts are made the same way. Most of them, you just put that in there. Yeah.
I have a question on the photograph you took for that particular one. Did you use a digital, or did you use like an old school film?
Yeah, believe it or not, this screen was created before digital came around. That's how yeah, but there's what you could do if you could probably still do it now. You take a regular piece of film and you go into the darkroom, you put the film into the enlarger, and you have this special paper. It's called codolith, and you expose it for a few minutes. Then you put it in one chemical and in another, and it's either totally black or it's totally clear, so that you have that image there. So that takes care of that. And here's an example of a couple silk screens that I've done. This is called Janus, representing January. And this one is called Physiognomy. Do you know what physiognomy is? I didn't know what it was. Physiognomy was at one time a science that criminologists used to use, and they could tell what kind of a criminal you were by your facial features. Now that goes back. That really did happen. If you had a long chin, or if you had deep set eyes, or you're probably this kind of a person or that kind of a person, which we found out is not true. But this one, I had the same image, and I did one side, and then I flipped it, and then I did I pulled a couple screens, and then I actually went back into it, took some tape, put some tape in, and other things, and then squeegeed that on top. So there's just so many different things you can do with the silk screen. You can manipulate it and add to it, or do different layers. Let's see if I have one more. Have you seen the fountain in Court Square? That's supposed to be the fountain in Court Square. And gosh, this was done in 1981. But this is also, let's see, I've got light blue, dark blue, medium blue. Maybe it's a three screen. And there's the number. This is 11 of 19 made. And I have and it's usually in pencil. And if you get it framed, you probably want to have this part shown, because that's the artist's signature, and it tells you about the print and so forth. So that's not a mistake. So that is a silk screen. So basically, these are all forms of printmaking. I think I've hit them all. sure. Yeah, okay, so we've got relief print, that's the wood block or the linoleum. Intaglio, that's a flat surface. And then you have planographic, and then you have the stencil, and the silk screen is the stencil. Any other questions? All right. Did we do okay?
Yeah,
Very good. All right, I'm going to get cleaned up. No questions? All right, thank you.
I think we have one question back here.
Yes.
Well, not so much a question, but a comment. I think you could take any one of those images downstairs to the Xerox machine and have 50 copies.
50,000 copies.
The difference is that man didn't put his hand to those copies.
That's the
That's the
secret.
difference.
That's the artist. And I think the other thing is this type of art, you say, well, what has it got to do with theology and God and everything else? It challenges us to look at something different. And by the way, so does the gospel. That's how it is. So you say, well, wait a minute, that's true. What about pottery? What about sculpture? Well, look at the scriptures. It talks about us being vessels. So I mean, it's there. So we have a natural connection that we've never thought before to art. As a matter of fact, we've always strayed away from it because the reason we don't have any pictures of Jesus is because it was thought to be idolatry at that time. So no one dared do anything like that because that's what the Romans did. But we're no longer Romans and we've thought of it since then. But the beauty is that the work that Rollin does, if you look at his collections and his books and his work, they all, look at one. If it doesn't challenge you to think, go home.
Well, by the way, Dr. Wade, do you think we should give them the title of this? Let's see if they can guess what it is.
Yeah. Thank you. You go on.
Because this actually, well, he came to my studio yesterday. Had you seen this before? Well, yeah, once before I emailed it to you, but this is my political statement. This painting is called The Wall. And you know the birds can fly right over that wall. And so that's what this is. It's little birds.
And that's something you've done very.
Oh yeah, this is like
It's still wet.
within the last few months, I guess. And you might think my colors are strange, but I'm a real color theorist, and there's a certain methodology in color, whether you knew it or not. But there's things called triads and tetrads and complementaries and double split complements and complements. Every time I do a painting, I select a color scheme, and I'll stick with that color scheme. This color scheme happened to be, it's a triad: yellow, orange, blue, green, and red, violet. Those colors, anything out of that color spectrum in color theory, they will always go together. They will always pop. Does anybody know the complement of yellow? Purple. What's the complement of green? Red. What's the complement of blue? Orange. And if you use two complementary colors, one with the other, it'll produce the highest state of vibration and give you the brightest color.
Like a UVA top, blue and orange.
Blue and orange.
Rollin,
Sorry.
tell me those.
This
What are the
particular color?
colors? Yeah.
This one is yellow-orange.
Okay.
And he has a mark.
Yeah, I always mark them on the back because sometimes I'll forget what I
And
use.
then
You
blue,
know,
green.
red, violet, blue, green, and yellow-orange. And I'm just currently working on a painting, but I've had more success and I've had more people say, "Rollin, you're a colorist more than anything else." It's not me. I'm just following color theory. If you ever take an art class, that's probably one of the things you probably have to at least do something with complementary or a triad. A triad, for example, is every fourth color in the color wheel. Well, if you have a color wheel, you've got. Well, I got to do this, okay? This is my teachable moment. Come on, it's coming back to me. All right, here we go. Red, yellow, blue. Those are what? Those are primaries. You know that every other color in the world is made from those three. All right, let's mix red and yellow together. What do I get? Red and yellow.
Orange.
Come on, think about red. Think about some red and think about some yellow. Orange. Okay, so red and yellow create orange. What does blue and yellow make?
Green.
Green. There you go. What's red and blue make?
Purple.
Violet. So look, red and green are complementary. Yellow and violet are complementary. Then between, what goes here? What's red and orange? Red, orange. All right, then you got yellow, orange. What's next?
Yellow, green.
Yellow, green. You always use the primary color first. You don't say green, yellow. What's here?
Blue, green.
Blue, green. Blue, violet, and
Red.
all right. So then you got there's the clock. Noon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So let's do a triad. Look, every fourth color on the wheel. Red, yellow, and blue. All right. Here's another triad. Violet, orange, and green. Let's do a complement. All right. Here's yellow, red, and green. But let's do a split complement. So instead of using red and green, we're going to use red, violet, red, orange, blue, green, yellow, green. That's called a split complement. A double split complement. A split complement would be like this. Here's a complement. Let's take yellow, and instead of taking violet, let's take blue, violet, and red, violet. So this, this, and this. And I promise you, every time those colors will work together beautifully. I love color theory.
Can I throw in a theological point?
Go for it.
Start off with the triad. Some people talk about a trinity.
There you go. See the connection?
It all comes, it's all connected.
All right, who's next?